Alrighty, so last time we, I guess, spoke, I finished covering the new and e-card series. I was originally planning to stop around Expedition Base, but I kept going because, I actually didn't have that many cards now that I thought about it, and I guess it made sense to keep them together. But in any case, now we'll be covering, let's see, Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver. I think it will be interesting to know at this part of the timeline of what things were happening around the original time I was collecting and whatnot. I would say, deciding how to group up the different categories of sets or expansions for Pokemon. This was an interesting shift in time, the aftermath of the E-Card series into getting towards the Diamond Pearl series. People were changing where they were getting their cards from. So initially, it was a lot more common to say people will go to a card shop. Well, not like nowadays card shop. It was more like a hobby shop. So you would go in there, and this shop, a local shop, a small shop, would sell not only just cards, like packets of cards, not really singles, not like now how you go to display case and there's a bunch of singles. No, it would be like packs or small boxes, nothing too crazy. Blisters weren't really a thing as much. Not too many people carry them, but anyway, they would also carry in the same shop like figurines, little action figures, comic books on the side, sometimes candy. So yeah, there wasn't too many card shops that were dedicated card shops. They were more like hobby shops. That was a lot more common seeing, almost like a mini toy store, but slightly more specific. And like I said, I still remember like the Pokemon erasers, where it's like it looks like the little tiny figurines, but they're just erasers. And so they got popular sometimes in back to school nights and whatnot. But yeah, I believe it was at this point in time, Diamond Pearl era especially, where it was a shift. Instead of going to hobby shops and all the various knickknacks that they had, people started going to retailers. And it's not that they just barely started carrying Pokemon, it's just like, they started making a bigger selection. Some stores didn't even exist at that point, or they haven't reached certain cities yet. Like, say they'll be in like the bigger cities, but not so much the smaller towns quite yet. So yeah, that's when people starts going to retail store, like say a Target, a Toys R Us, and then I guess later on Best Buy and GameStop to get Pokemon cards and the toys. Especially in the earlier day, they will put like the toys and the cards together. Now it seems like they mostly just carry the cards in its own dedicated card section, and then they'll have like the additional toys with all of the other toys. Very interesting setup. But in any case, I would say it would be this moment in time especially where there's this large shift. So when people went shopping, they switched from like, a lot of the smaller shops into being like, oh yeah, the retail stores, just because it's more convenient. And I guess that makes sense, less stops along the way. But that also means a lot of decline in a lot of the earlier hobby shops. The ones I can think of in my hometown, yeah, a lot of the shops I used to get my original Pokemon cards from, they're no longer around, or they moved, changed owners, things like that. But yeah. But in any case, I don't have one of every card from every set when I gave away my original collection, so it's been some cards scattered here and there, a little bit of everything. So that's what we're going to be covering today. It'll be this list up here. I guess we'll start with the Diamond and Pearl series base set, where I have a singular card, and that would be this Drifloon. out of all the cards I decided to keep, it ended up being this Drifloon. I don't know why. I think it was just stuck to one of the back pages of the binder. I think like in between the pages. It was just like there. It wasn't even in the actual sleeve. But yeah, this one actually, I guess, accidentally stayed around. So you'll probably see one of the reasons why I also broke the grouping card series is the cards look different again. So you'll remember in E-Card series, like this top bar was a lot less information. They threw more stuff down here and whatnot. they decided to put it back up here, almost kind of like, you know how base set, they kind of had the length with interesting thing, bottom bar. It's now aligned to the right. Now it's getting that new look of cards to it. It looks still very similar. It's kind of like a almost like a mishmash of like base and e card, but yeah, definitely a different look. And with this Bulbasaur, I can also bring up if you ever get the chance to see the holo versions of the card in person, you'll notice there are holos in this era of time. It looks different. This holo, it feels like it's a gloss almost. Like I don't know how to describe it. It's definitely different from like a modern holo. Like say if you were to compare reverse holo to this, it will definitely stand out. If you had like a pile, I had to pick it out. Yeah, I have the holo version of the Squirtle. This is the period of time when a lot of people start grabbing Pokemon cards from McDonald's Kids Meal. I don't specifically remember if this was one of those cards. I don't think this is a McDonald cards, but I think of this era of time as like, oh yeah, McDonald's doing the promo. This isn't the first time they've done it, but people were shifting being like, oh yeah, it just so happened to come with a toy that's nice, like a Hello Kitty or a Batman figure. Now people are like, oh, I'm specifically trying to get the kids meal for the card. Diamond Pearl era was kind of that start of that until, you know, today. Alright, great encounters. I would also say another thing that also pops up, you know, just we have a good example here is additional abilities and card mechanics. So, for example, Poke Body. I think there's a card later on called like Poke Power, stuff like that. Trying to liven up the game. New metas are coming out of how gamer playing. The base set are still viable, technically speaking, at this point. But yeah, with these new abilities, they're getting pretty popular. People are like, oh, there's new combinations that we can do now. That makes it more exciting. I haven't played competitively Pokemon. This is mostly from what I know from like my friends who did used to do tournaments, but yeah. I do remember them talking about it during lunches about all of these new abilities and also the concern of like potentially making it a very complicated game. Someone could think of like Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh! But I think Pokemon's done a pretty good job at, you know, making sure the game doesn't blow up in complexity. But anyway, very interesting to see this pop up. Alright, and the only card I have from Legends Awakens. I love how silly this card is. I love it. It reminds me of a linograph, like, or those greeting cards, the ink cards that they'll put little stamps on. Those are always so nice. Other than that, I didn't have a reason to keep it. This one I did remember I specifically liked the art for it because how lighthearted it is. So yeah, I kept that one. And now we have the Platinum card with Riolu. This one was secretly tucked in between two other cards of like the mini portfolio. So I was like, oh my god, the Riolu. I almost forgot I had this card. So I guess similar story of the Drifloon of like it was an extra card here. I didn't realize, and then when I was like going through it, like actually taking them out and putting sleeves on them, I was like, oh, another one. Other than that, I don't really have much to say. It's very interesting art stuff. And now we have Supreme Victors, which, you know, Dodrio, Barbil, Relicanth? I don't know. Some of the Pokemon names I never know how to say. At this point in time, you know, Diamond Pearl is coming out. You could go to a random Target while you're shopping for milk. Pick one off the shelf. Call it a day. Because they're seen so widely available, I think that's one of the reasons why are hard to get, because not too many people bother to get them. I don't know how if I'm explaining this well, but yeah, I remember so many people like fellow students or classmates or whatnot, friends. They would have so many cards from a certain set. Like I think this was one of them. That's why I ended up with keeping 3 of them because I remembered that they'll just kind of be like, yeah, we have a bunch of them. We could trade, but it's like there's so many. Like people were collecting on like the older ones because they're like, oh yeah, they're not in the store anymore. Why will we try hard to get the ones that are currently on the shelf? And I guess now at this point enough time has passed where people are like, oh my god, I could have had way more cards. or like realizing like, oh, you can't get these cards anymore. But yeah, at the time it's like they're just sitting there on the shelves. You could go to like a bunch of the different stores and get these cards. So yeah, it was pretty much unheard of for things selling out unless it's like a very specific set. But for the most part, these cards did not sell out really. They had like a bunch of the back order. Honestly, if you wanted the modern sets, like the newest sets of this drop, you go to a retail store. If you wanted the older sets, they were still available. You went to the hobby shops or the card stores that are now slowly becoming actual card shops. It probably wouldn't be like, oh yeah, let me go buy a base set equivalent of like how easy it would have been to get them. Because you know, those sold out a long time ago. But you could go back several sets, and yeah, that used to be way more common. You went back several sets. There was like, I think, yeah, back in 2010, I still remember you could buy Team Rocket Returns. Yeah, that's just how it was. So yeah, to a certain degree, it was like at that moment in time, it was pretty easy finding someone to get older cards. It's kind of strange thing about it now that like some of these cards that are so easy to get now is like the only way to get it now, I guess, is if you find like a reseller or you go to a card show, look at $100 listings for it. But yeah, it's kind of strange thinking about it. And the last one, the crown jewel of them all, I guess. Heart and Gold, SoulSilver. As the name suggests, based on the video game. Kind of similar to the Fire Red and Leaf Green cards. I ended up picking Sunkern because it was little eyes. Look at the little eyes. That's so cute. But anyway. So yeah, that about pretty much sums up the original collection in terms of like where I was originally collecting cards, and then, you know, I gave them away and this is what I had left. Because if you notice, if I scroll down, the next card series is straight up Sword and Shields and Scarlet and Violet. There's a huge gap. If you're wondering, hey, there's no black and white, X and Y, Sun and Moon cards, because at the time, that's around the time I gave away my whole collection. When I gave it away, I wasn't grabbing, you know, more cards. Because I just gave away my collection, so I didn't really collect those cards. Also, at the time, people were like, these are so readily available. There wasn't like a rush to get them. That didn't really happen till like, I guess, starting hit 2016, 2020, 2022. It has gotten like, you know, a bit crazy of like getting the order cards. But yeah, at this point in time, like 2010, they were like, oh yeah, you could. It's not difficult. But in any case, yeah, I don't have a single existing card from Black and White, X and Y, Sun and Moon era, just by random chance. I did have some of those cards when, you know, because it was like leading up to like before I gave away my collection. But yeah, like I said, I didn't really plan which card to keep and which card to give ahead of time. I just like skimmed through some pages, was like, oh, this one stuck out, I threw it in there. This one stuck out, I threw it in there, and I caught it today. So yeah, I guess next time around, at this point, these would be the cards I've gotten as winter gifts 2024. One of the reasons I was like, you know what, maybe I should report this or whatnot. I don't know. So yeah, next time around, I'll cover Sword and Shield and Scarlet Violet, what I've gotten, and then over the last week, I've also gotten some more additional cards. I'll also talk about those as we get there. But yeah, I kind of find it so funny. I missed like 3 generations of cards just from the fact of a random chance. I didn't even notice that until I was like planning out how to divide up the series, and I'm like, wait a minute, these are missing. But anyway, I'll see you next time.